Hello, everyone. Welcome to the August edition of 2026 Cyber Samurai Cipher. So last time we did some time in the lab, and this time we're going to do some more just high-level kind of methodology, philosophy of security, and we are going to discuss the root of all security issues and then possible solutions that you can do in your organization to resolve those issues. So first off, let's talk about what the root security issues are not. Typically in the news, if you read about data breaches, they'll say, it was a misconfiguration, or it was this vulnerability that was connected to the internet, or human error, all this sort of stuff. But truly, the real root of security issues is none of these things. It's not the speed of the industry, although none of this is easy to cope with. AI, all the new tools that have come out, um, these are all contributing factors to true security issues. So what is the real issue? Well, if we go back to Caesar Cipher here on the right, when Julius Caesar invented cybersecurity, there's a fun statement. It's crazy how 2,000 years later we're still talking about this, but this concept that he created is the Caesar cipher. So it's just basic encoding, two rings that would work on the inside and the outside, and you just had to know that he shifted the alphabet 3 letters. So A became B, C, D, and then you would just kind of switch the cipher, and then you could encode and decode the message just based on the alphabet got shifted 3 spaces. So what was he truly doing there? Well, he was splitting for the first time in at least recorded human history the humanity into 2 parts, those who could decode that message and those who could not. And really, it was proven by just knowing how it worked. The cipher itself just kind of helped you do it faster. You could do it by hand by just switching 3 places. But here we are 2,000 years later, and the issue is the same. And the issue is identity. It's those who can and those who cannot, those who are supposed to be here, those who are not supposed to be here. I mean, that's all that hacking is a hacker is able to get into a network and do a thing that they should not be able to do. It's all identity. Every time we've tried to solve this problem in technology, there are issues. If we tried passwords, oh, but then the password can be leaked or known, or you can just tell somebody else, or that didn't work very well. And so there's multi-factor, there's hardware tokens, there's, when you name it, we've tried to prove identity through all kinds of different methods. And the issue has yet to go away. So at Cyber Samurai, we realize that identity is at the root cause of all security issues, and this is how we deal with it. So to help identities on your business networks to be known, first we build a relationship. One person told me one time, cybersecurity is easy. It's you just send off your logs to a third party, and they'll just read everything, and they'll tell you if you're hacked or not, and off you go. You don't need anything else. And okay, that kind of startled me at first. I was like, oh, maybe that is all you need. But when you think about it, that isn't true. That's pattern recognition. That's just finding bumps, the anomalies, and that's not enough. We have that already in so many security tools. We have pretty mature AI detection now in CrowdStrike, in Sentinel-1, in a lot of MDR products, and many, many other products. And cybersecurity is getting harder and more important, and breaches are still happening. So AI has complicated this. It hasn't just solved it. So the real thing we do at Cyber Samurai is we build a relationship. What analogy I've come up with, that it's a pretty good analogy, is the analogy of a jewelry store. So AI, with all its crazy new things that truly are amazing, I mean, things that attack vectors and things that I never would have thought of somebody coming in that way, that sort of thing, um, is true. But what is also true is to rob a jewelry store, at some point, the jewelry has to be touched. It has to be taken. It has to be interacted with by someone who is not supposed to be there. That is what a jewelry store robbery is. And so to become kind of hyper vigilant or extra focused on the custodians of those jewels, which is the IT staff, the admins, and then the jewels themselves. Um, that has proven really well to find hacking activity on organizations. So MITRE has a whole framework. They call it the attack framework, and it's really boiled down a lot of data breaches over the years they've analyzed, and they've broken things into categories of like, yeah, I mean, every AI, not AI, competent hacker, not so competent hacker, they all kind of boil down to like these steps. They all have to do reconnaissance. They all have to do permanent access. They all have to do inventory, at least a little bit of the data and exfiltration and all that stuff. And so AI has accelerated every one of those steps, things that would take weeks or months or years even at times before can be typically done in hours, in days, that sort of thing. But the overall methods haven't changed. And so to just see patterns in there, it's helpful. There are things that sometimes you'll get as lucky as a user. Once you have a sim monitoring all your logs, you may get as lucky as like, okay, I can see back a year or 2 years of my logs, and that person has never executed PowerShell before until today. And so that's a pretty good sign that like, well, something's probably up there. Let me look at their job description. Oh, they work with finance. So, typically finance people don't run PowerShell, that sort of thing. It may be as simple as that, but really, it's almost never that simple. A lot of times, in my experience, it's been even IT accounts that get broken into where the admin today did 100 things, and two of the things that they did were actually malicious, and they didn't come from different IP addresses. They didn't come from weird devices. I mean, it was like it was just one of the many things they did, and there was probably token stealing going on and that sort of thing. But really, having a relationship and having a sim and a good communication with the admins is the way around that. That's how we combat that. Is, hey, tell us the new projects that you have going on. Tell us kind of what everybody's job duties are. Like, does this person typically do that, or do they not do that? Does this other person do it? And so when you see kind of cross contamination a little bit of just functions like that, you can just ask, like, hey, typically that person does it. Are you doing it now? Or, and sometimes, be like, oh yeah, they were out for the day, so I just was doing it. Oh, okay, that's fine. And other times it's like, wait, my account did what? I didn't do that. And you can find hackers there. And it's so much more than just patterns. There's a need for communication where, if there's a brand new set of IP addresses coming in and admins are acting on those IP addresses, and then sure enough, you check in with the company and it's like, oh yeah, that's our new AWS tunnel and our EC2 servers that are coming in and everything. That's fully expected. Oh, okay, great. Like reaching out and checking and that sort of thing. Just having that ongoing working relationship of being able to build that context quickly of what's not just what's normal from a sim point of view, from the logs, from a completely technical point of view, but also from just a human point of view of like, oh, that person, I didn't think they usually work on Saturdays. That's weird, Oh, I remember they said that they were going to start doing maintenance windows on Saturdays. Oh, okay. It's a relationship. It's not just looking through the logs. And the other way that we really help prove the identities of that are acting in an organization is through lockdowns. So this method has proved very successful over my time in IT. And what it boils down to is really power needs to be consolidated. The admins need to have everything they need, and they need to be essentially put inside the castle. So they have full reign, they can do their jobs, and security needs to build out their ability to do their job so that uh, and also everything about them, their devices, all that stuff needs to be known. um, they need to use static devices, not just like, oh, hey, I was at somebody's desk, so I just like did this as me. None of that stuff. Like they need to use dedicated devices from dedicated network segments, like as static as possible for all admin actions. We call that kind of quieting the network and only allowing, like having firewalls at every stage of the game so that only those admin devices can do admin functions. That's a big job depending on the network, and it's a bit of a mind shift for a lot of IT departments, but it has worked so well to just quiet the network so that you can hear things. When you, it's not the default background anymore, but in one of the Kali Linux for hacking, that's an operating system for hacking, you'd boot up, and the default background used to be the quieter you become, the more you can hear. And oh my goodness, that is so true in security. If you can, if you can build tunnels for the IT admins to be able to, they can do their jobs inside the tunnel. Then as soon as something happens outside that tunnel, that's when you can start investigating. That's your first alert. So in my experience, what that looks like is you've brought all your IT admins into that castle, and then you've been building out the walls of that castle and fortifying the rest of the network and stuff to the point where hackers need to try hard enough. It's not as simple as getting on a network and just off you go. No, they're going to have to get on specific IP addresses, get onto specific devices to be able to even get to the places where those jewels are stored. And that is pretty loud. That's going to create a lot of logs. Even with AI tools, and I forget who it was, if it was Miner or Anthropic, somebody published a lot of what AI is being asked to do these days. And it's really the same MITRE frameworks of just, well, you can't attack something you don't know is there. So even if you use a crazy cool new AI tool to do it, there still has to be a reconnaissance phase. Well, even if you're hiding and you're doing sneaky network traffic, you can't fully hide. No one can hide from binary. So there are going to be logs somewhere. There's going to be network traffic in the switches, or other devices that happen to see that traffic, that sort of thing. And so if you've quieted the network, you can see a lot of this behavior. And what that looks like is typically against the wall that you've built, so the admins are on the inside of that castle. You'll hear a bump, and it'll be like, hey, somebody failed trying to get onto remote desktop to a server. Okay, maybe that's nothing. Maybe that's normal activity. Or somebody tried to get onto a Linux server and, from a really odd internal IP address. Okay, that's weird. So typically what happens is it's one of three things. First off, um, sometimes the company hired somebody new. In a perfect world, there'd be a relationship where, hey, we hired a new sysadmin. They're going to be starting on Monday. You're going to see new things in the logs, that sort of thing. But it doesn't always happen. Everybody's human, and so you start to investigate, and you find out. You eventually reach out to the company, and they say, "Oh, yeah, we hired a new sysadmin." Oh, okay, that's fine. Get them kind of inventory their devices set up, static IP, all that stuff. Good. That's good. We're good to go. So that's the first scenario. The second is that a current admin has gotten a new device. And again, maybe they didn't tell you or just didn't get around to telling you, but all of a sudden, like that system admin, network admin, DBA, whoever it is now coming in from an unknown IP address. Okay, well, that's an issue that you're not going to be allowed. That's not one of those inside of your tunnel things, and so you're not allowed to do that. And so, oh, okay, well, you need two devices for a little while, or you're done with the old device, and so again, you inventory the device, you get it all static, and everything's happy again. And then the third situation is it's a hacker. So if there aren't new sysadmins or network admins or help desk, or there aren't new devices, Well, that means that, okay, what is that IP address? And so you start investigating and you find, oh, this connected to a VPN and didn't get logged for some reason. And then you can find a hacker and then you can get them kicked out and everything. But this whole concept of really elevating or consolidating, I should say, power and then becoming hyper vigilant to that power and the jewels that that power protects. You don't need to know everything about your company. You don't need to know all the like new hires for the week or the month or whatever, or all the new devices. It just that power needs to be static. So that method has worked really well. And again, it helps solve the original problem, which is it's not that there is an encoded message or there is, these files or whatever, or a, help desk or HR information or something. No, that's just the business doing what the business does. The issue is that there's a malicious identity in here also. And so it really comes down to checking the identities, knowing the current identities, and being able to quickly identify ones that aren't that the known identities. And so I kind of have a new definition of a data breach. It's the ability for a malicious identity to slip in and damage your business because of a lack of true identity awareness. So it's if if all of your business IT admin functions is known and static as much as possible within a reasonable conclusion, that is how you find hackers, because it's anything outside of this is either a new employee or somebody forgot their laptop and just logged into somebody else's, like some really odd unique situation for the day, or it's your hacker. And that is just a great way to protect your organization, to know the identities in there. And after all, like, that's what the name of the game is. It's not the fact that there's vulnerable code. There's been vulnerable code since the first app was written 50 years ago or whatever. I mean, there was an Air Force document that a guy published, and he was like, hey, I just wrote to a part of memory that I shouldn't be able to. And it was, I think it was 50, 51, 52 years ago or whatever when he published that document. And we now know it as like a buffer overflow and out of bounds. Like, you're able to write to memory where you shouldn't be able to. Well, that's existed from the beginning of code. I don't think that's going away. And so that's not the issue. That, and maybe AI will solve that code. Maybe all code will be perfect in the future world. I don't know. It doesn't seem that way, just because, like, if you look at what AI could find a year ago and what it can find now, I mean, like, why wouldn't that keep going with hardware getting better and better and better? Why wouldn't that just keep going? And the new AI is able to find vulnerabilities the old AI couldn't. Who knows? But this concept of knowing the identities acting on your network, if you can know those and you can prove those, that's how you keep your information safe. So I thank you for everybody that's able to attend, and hope you have a good rest of the August. I know there's not too much left, but thank you so much.